Hello, everyone, and welcome to Reimagine 2021. I'm your co-host, Ashlie Meredith, Head of Education at MouseBelt Blockchain Accelerator, and today we're bringing you our version 7.0 History of Coins, and we are delighted to be joined with Ines Gonzalez del Mazo from the Stanford Digital Currency Initiative. Welcome, Ines. How are you doing today?
Hi, Ashlie. Very nice to be here and to meet you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for being here. So I know that you work with a lot of universities, and I'm excited about that as head of education over at MouseBelt. Can you tell us more about what you do at Stanford Digital Currency Initiative, what the Stanford Digital Currency Initiative is?
Right. So the Stanford Digital Currency Initiative is an initiative within Stanford Engineering, and is one of the professors that heads it is a very well-known cryptographer. It's called David Macias, and the goal is twofold. First, we have a relationship or a partnership with the UN, the United Nations, as more specifically the International Telecommunications Union. And what we're doing over there is working on standards together with other countries in the world and other entities, working on standards about central bank digital currencies. And the second thing that we're trying to do also is do research for central banks. So there are central banks that may, they may be later in the game in terms of like how do they know the central bank digital currencies or not, or there's also more access to certain protocols and not others. So we want to be a source for them, and we want the students from the PhD to be part of it.
That's excellent. So in your research and work with the UN, you are actively helping governments and banks kind of understand cryptocurrencies, see how they might be able to participate.
Right. So there are different working groups, and like you touch upon different topics, and there's experts assigned to those working groups. Some of them, they touch upon like interoperability, others like ID, others programmability, and is to make it so that you can create kind of an internet of money, because what you want is at the end of the day that like you can trade across countries, and you can continue this globalization. So it's going to be key to kind of establish some kind of standards that everyone can follow.
And you mentioned ID. Is the perspective a little bit broader than currency then? Do they look into kind of blockchain as a whole and maybe applications of blockchain outside of just currency, or kind of really, you could say, reimagining the concept of transferring value and what holds value and how we move that among parties?
Right. So governments are looking at it in a way that they want the blockchain for a government to adopt a new technology. It has to bring a benefit, right? And one of the benefits it looks to bring is like replace cash, but also do financial inclusion. And one of the ways to do financial inclusion is first identify the person you have there, and give them certain services, right? Other things that could follow is taxes, et cetera, but like a government is not looking at blockchain technology as a matter of like we're just going to move money. It's like we're going to make an improvement of the whole system and of the whole of the whole society in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's super fascinating, the work you're doing over at Stanford. And I know that you also got your MBA at Wharton Penn Business School. What was your experience like there? Did you work on blockchain?
So at Wharton, what I did is I studied an MBA, which was 2 years, and I used the 2 years in order to get deep into the technology. And over there, I attended Professor Berbach, a class about blockchain, and he's very well known in the space. I also work for Sarah Hammer, Professor Sarah Hammer, who is the head of the Stevens Center of Innovation for Finance at Wharton. I did my internship at Ripple. So I did a go-to-market strategy for them for another continent, and I also was very active in the Penn blockchain clubs and the fintech club, doing podcasts, doing webinars, and also organizing visits for students to get to know companies.
Well, that's such perfect kind of leads into my next question about, advice you would have for students who want to break into the blockchain industry, because it sounds like you did kind of exactly what I'm always encouraging students to do, is to just get involved, join their clubs, start a club if they don't have one on their campus, talk to professionals, get on podcasts, just try to learn as much as possible. So that's totally great. As you know, we have a university program, a network of students from over 100 universities in 24 countries, got a couple of online educational platform, a couple of courses that we invite students to come take. So anyone just tuning in, be sure to head over to Reimagine 2020 YouTube channel, smash that subscribe button, check out some of our university interviews there. You can see students from all over the world talking about how they are breaking into blockchain. And so when I have interviewees on, I always like to kind of ask, what was your path to getting into cryptocurrency, your background, and what advice might you have for students who are looking to do the same thing?
Right. So actually, when I was at school, one of the things that I realized is that people have very different opportunities in life, and it's just luck, is like where you were born, right? So that was what brought me a little bit to start working at the UN, at the United Nations in Geneva, and also the Spanish Embassy in Brussels. And over there, what I did is I help companies either export or get funds for development projects for emerging markets. And in that time, what I saw is that it's actually finance who allows everything to work. Like it's the access to finance, which like allows you to pay education and allows you to create a company and just like uplift yourself in a way. So that's what brought me to the World Bank, where I stayed over 8 years. And over there, I did advisory for like 33 countries, touching topics such as capital markets, payment systems, anti-money laundering, deposit insurance, cross-border payments. So basically, we would go into the country, we would speak with the banks, insurance companies, like credit unions, money transfer operators, and gave the government a plan and some recommendations in order to develop more the sector and to increase the stability of the country. So that together with the work that I was doing, I was also working for the managing director and CFO of the World Bank, and I was like writing and also coordinating interventions and reports for the G20 and the Financial Stability Board. And over there, we touched topics such as OTC derivatives. Like it was just after the financial crisis. So we contributed to discussions about like the additional capital for like large banks, and also the resolution plans for these like huge entities, right? So that gave me not only the view about a national system and how that like different parts of the financial system connect, but also gave me a view of how internationally things connect, right? And because you work in emerging countries, a lot of the things work a lot worse, right? So I saw a lot of the flaws, right? Two of the projects that I work in were like the problems on syndicated loans and the problems on cross-border payments. And those were the ones who led me to my director to propose me for an innovation team. And in the innovation team, we started looking at blockchain and artificial intelligence. And at that time, there were professors of MIT coming to the World Bank, kind of explaining Bitcoin, explaining blockchain. Companies also were reaching out and kind of explaining different use cases that they wanted to showcase. It was really early, but there was already this company in Africa that was called Bitpesa that was already doing like cross-border payments for companies through Bitcoin, right? So what I saw is like, and also for the more the securities part and the capital markets part, what I saw is like this is going to bring a lot of efficiencies. So at that time is where I left, and whereas like I went to Wharton, I really got deep into the space. and basically started from zero because I didn't have a background on technology, but in a way I feel like the opportunity was really big, and it didn't matter to start from zero. Like, you always start from experience, right? Like, you always understand things better because of your past, and having been work in technology firm or a bank or something else, then you're going to bring a different perspective to the table, and I think that's very useful.
Yeah, well, that's super encouraging to students who might be tuning in. And I kind of say the same thing a lot of the time, which is if you're interested in blockchain, like, take what you know and what you're good at and add blockchain to it. There's people, we need media, we need communications people, we need psychologists, we need, whatever you're good at, lawyers, right? Oh my gosh, we need legislatures and politicians and lawyers to be more educated in blockchain. So lots of opportunity no matter what your background is. Would you recommend pursuing an MBA program as a vehicle for focusing on a specific industry? Like, if a student has a bunch of experience in one part of an industry and wants to really kind of dedicate some time to learning about a specific industry, while it's not specifically technical, or you didn't go get a blockchain degree, you kind of used your MBA as a way to learn about blockchain.
Yeah, I think like an MBA program is so flexible that you can actually like do whatever you want with the time. Like, yes, of course, like you have certain requirements that you need to do, but for example, like together with the Stevens Center in Innovation Finance, I created my own subject, and I just did a research paper about like blockchain in the financial industry. So I feel like it's up to you. It depends on like if you want to be more technical and like you want to really get into the engineering part, like maybe the MBA is not the vehicle, right? Like you better do it like a master in engineering or something more deep. For me, it was I was transitioning from a more public kind of place to a more private place. So I thought that the best vehicle was the MBA. Also, the classes are larger. You have a lot more contacts. Like, they're well-known programs that open a lot of doors. So I mean, at the end, it's personal, right? But what I'm saying is like MBA is very flexible, and especially right now, MIT is super advanced in cryptocurrencies. It has the MIT lab. MBAs can work with the MIT lab. Wharton is getting the Stevens Center of Financial Innovation was created last year, and they're like immediately they did a crypto forum. So I do think like it's possible to specialize if you want an MBA.
Awesome. Great information about what's kind of going on at Stanford and UPenn. So before we kind of zoom out into the theme of this series, History of Coins, I want to dive in a little more to your background at the World Bank and what you did with them with the International Monetary Fund.
Right. So we would do assessments of the financial sector, which is a little bit like what I explained before. And it's a program that is done by every single country every 5 or 7 years, depending on if you're a developed country or you're an emerging country. And that is what, like, you look at things such as banks, payment systems, and capital markets, for example. And because of that, I could see the potential of blockchain technology through settlements.
Yeah, so the International Monetary Fund, every 5 to 7 years, countries, whether developed or emerging, will kind of create these reports or investigations into basically how sound their financial systems are, right?
Exactly.
And you would, do advising on monetary policy, different countries. I'm curious, what did you see as far as why certain governments have accelerated in blockchain adoption more than others. What are governments usually looking for when pursuing blockchain adoptions? Why are some more open than others? And are there any particular countries you could call out or developments that you've seen with your experience there?
Right. So it really depends on one of the biggest benefits of having a blockchain is the fact that you can settle instantly. So you can settle payments instantly, you can settle like securities instantly. So one of the countries that jump on top of like blockchain immediately was Cambodia, because it didn't have a real-time settlement system. And therefore, it had a lot of problems to do payments and to settle securities. Therefore, they moved into it that right away. There are other countries that, for example, Europe has a real-time settlement all over Europe. So the benefit of putting blockchain is not as big as in another country whose settlement system is just not real time, right? So those kind of differences are. So for example, like for Europe to kind of adopt blockchain technology, they have to see, okay, what is the benefit on top of that, right? Like what is, and that could be programmability, that could be financial inclusion now, because it's kind of already included, but it's more like replacing cash, for example. Like in Sweden, one of the fears is like cash is going to disappear, right? And then you have the payment system of the country. They have like three payment companies, but you cannot pay from one to the other, right? It's like Venmo and like Square Cash. So you cannot pay from Venmo to Square Cash. So you fragment the whole market. And like a government doesn't want that. Like a government, what it wants is like competition, and there's like more innovation, and you could easily move from one company to the other. So those two are facts that are pushing more countries than others in order to research on the benefits on blockchain technology. Asia, for example, and Latin America and Africa, they have really big problems in cross-border payments. So that's why they are looking into it, because they rely on the dollar in order to make a lot of payments. So that means certain transactions need to go to New York in order to go back, and that is super expensive. So those countries, certain companies in those areas. Well, Asia is the government's also looking into it, but in Africa and Latin America, it's been companies who are like, hey, we actually can get a lot of savings if we start looking at blockchain technology cross-border. So that's why like every region, every country has a different structure in terms of the financial system and kind of a different type of problem. And that type of problem is what is really pushing them to research this technology.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's, whether it's interoperability, digital cash, cross-border payments, having instant settlement, as you said, in Cambodia, different needs for different regions, and blockchain has benefits for all of them. So that might, play into how quickly adoption happens. I think in the US, people not familiar with crypto or these kinds of stories all over the world might have kind of a hard time understanding why things like sovereignty and self-custody and control over your money and settlements and cross-border payments are so important. We kind of take for granted that the bank insures our money. We feel pretty confident that when we go to our bank account, it's going to say the same thing it said last time we checked. No one's going to all of a sudden deny us access or have hyperinflation of our currency. So maybe you could speak to what some of the problems with fiat are in a way that makes people in the US understand a little bit better, maybe some of the things that are happening in the US with inflation as well.
Right. Yeah. So before we jump in, like one of the problems in the US also is financial inclusion, and that is one of the reasons why they're trying to develop the digital dollar, right? Like it's very costly to get these people in the system. But if you create a wallet that doesn't have a minimum quantity to have in the account, therefore you can start solving certain issues. Yeah, people here in the US, I think like in the US, there are different tiers. Like the biggest banks have the nicest technology, but then you have the credit unions and the smaller banks, and those are not able to settle in real time as the others. So here you have two tiers, and the more interest of using blockchain within payments is for financial inclusion, and for settlements in like among smaller entities. Let's put it that way. And then, but yeah, as you said, right now there's like an unprecedented amount of dollars that have been printed. But before, normally, like you have confidence on the dollar, like you have confidence on the economy grows, and even right now with inflation. However, it's true, like inflation is going to decrease the value of the dollar, right? And decrease the purchasing power of the people. So therefore, right now you have different assets that, as Bitcoin, instead of tending to go down, they right now go up. So if I am in a position that I'm not like I have my assets, it makes total sense. It's like, hey, what has the possibility of going down and what has the possibility of going up? And crypto assets right now have the possibility of going up. So even though they're super risky and you don't want to put all your money on them, but you may want to put a little bit in order to diversify your portfolio and have that upside. Because it's true, if you do a lot of when you do a lot of monetary policy, and like you put a lot of money in the economy, eventually the value of the money goes down.
Yeah, interesting. So do you have any perspectives on, what are the benefits of stable coins or other kinds of solutions such as Libra that have been suggested for alternative ways of storing value?
Right. So stable coins is very is a very important development, because what it does is like it takes if there's a reserve that is audited and there's like assurance that the money is there, like it takes away the risk that crypto has, right? So and also it allows you to do settlements instantly. So right now, the only way for me to kind of pay someone else from another bank is I have to go normally through the ACH or something like that, and it will take Venmo says like, wait for a couple of days for the transaction to be done or whatever. And if I do a stable coin, that transaction is instant. But it's also like that transaction should be cheaper than, for example, when you're in a shop and you pay with your credit card, the credit card charges a fee to the merchant, right? So currently with stable coins, that fee normally is lower than the fee that credit cards are charging. Plus, that the merchant will receive the money instantly. So that helps the business in a way. The only problem is like if you use protocols such as Ethereum, right, where all like stable coins or most of the stable coins have been developed, the problem is like it doesn't have the scalability right now in order to process all that amount of payments. So that's why we're seeing the gas prices going to the roof. And if the gas prices go to the roof, then it's actually more expensive than paying with a credit card, right? Mm-hmm. So there's going to be solutions, or maybe layer 2 solutions or other types of solutions that are going to manage to bring those prices down so that it's actually more effective. So there's potential of use of stable coins. However, there is still some problems that need to be fixed, right? Within stable coins, also the other part is, as you mentioned, like other countries, like their currencies devalue a lot faster than the dollar. The dollar is fine. So if the people could put their a little bit of their savings into dollars, they're going to be happy. So that is what you're seeing also in the emerging markets, like trying to put a little bit of the money either in Bitcoin or even in stable coins, so that they have that stability. And lastly, in terms of Libra, one of the things that wants to solve is cross-border payments. And cross-border payments, here we have to divide into two, like big cross-border payments. So basically what trade finance and like huge like bank transactions do. And that is like, that's another chapter, meaning like you need different things. But for really small quantities of money moving internationally, the problem is like right now it's too expensive. Like if you do a wire, it's minimum $50. So $50 if you're sending $100, you know, like it's too much. So with Libra and other protocols such as Celo, they're trying to do is, or Stellar, the same, is like trying to lower those prices and trying to facilitate smaller payments that right now it's impossible to do across border because you rely on the big structures of the banks, and the big structures of the banks are expensive. So those are like they're actually really cool problems that haven't been solved for a long time. Like one of my projects at the World Bank was about cross-border payments, and you realize how it's something that, because every country is kind of looking at ameliorating their own system, right? Like they don't care that much, and like, okay, you know, the banks had to kind of find a way with SWIFT in order to make those payments, but like that hasn't been renewed for 40 years. So yeah, it's a great way of like updating an old system.
So for like those larger transactions between banks that you said, you know, for peer-to-peer or smaller transactions, we can have these solutions, something like Libra. For things that the banks are doing on a larger scale that require different security measures or different regulations, is this something that a protocol like Ripple is working on? I know you worked with them, and I know that they kind of seek to be kind of the institutional go-to institutional protocol. So am I correct?
Yeah, but like so Ripple, what has done with institutions is just messaging. So basically what it does is like it helps. So as of now, if you send money from, like, for example, Spain to the US, and you do it like, I went to Santander, right? And I said like, I wanted to send this money. And like a few years ago, the person in Santander was like, well, actually, I don't know how much is gonna arrive, and I don't know when it's gonna arrive. So just let me know whenever it arrives. Like most likely the cost is going to be X, and it's going to be 2 to 3 days. But a bank didn't have visibility of that payment reaching to whatever it had to reach, right? So what Ripple developed is basically a way that it was a two-way street. Like the bank would have visibility of like what are the fees, and when did the payment arrive. Also, they developed more so that they could, because in order to send money internationally, it may go to like 3 other countries before reaching the final country, because there's actually no movement of money. There's like debits and credits between accounts and between banks. So it would also kind of calculate what was the fastest route, what was the cheapest route, but that was it. Like for institutions, that was it, or at least for bigger banks. For like smaller institutions, what it would do, Ripple was like get the XRP and then move the money with the XRP. The problem with XRP is that it moves, right? So if you move a smaller amount of money, it's okay, because it can move a cent up, a cent down. If you move trillions and trillions of dollars, that movement becomes a little bit bigger, right? So the banks have never used XRP, also regulatory reasons, but there's a potential over there with stablecoins. And what like JP Morgan was trying to do is to create a stablecoin, or also Finality, for example. Like Finality is another stablecoin that that was created by I don't know how many banks, but like 7 banks, 10 banks, in order to fix this problem, right? So they don't want to rely on something that moves, they want to rely on something stable, and they also want to rely on something that is being heavily regulated, because they're heavily regulated. So their potential, like that's what I'm trying to say, like is going to be a different game between the ones that are like huge like cross-border transfers versus a smaller transfer that you can use a technology that is just there's less risk, there's just less millions put into place.
Yeah, well, these are all such great insights. I know that you're publishing a blog now where maybe people could go to learn more about all of this stuff. Just recently launched. What are you writing about there, and where can we find it?
Yes. So I started my blog because one of the, like, and this I encourage people to do. Like, one of the things that I started doing at Wharton was like, okay, let's go to blockchain conferences. And I arrived, and at least back then, a lot of the focus was on hashes, on the technology, on like engineering. And I was like, I don't understand anything. And it just basically takes you a while to kind of like get used to all that kind of new language, right? But what I realized is there was few people who were actually talking back to the real, like the big system, or like the finance, like the normal finance, and explaining to them what it was gonna do. Like, one thing is created decentralized finance, which is great, and is going to bring, it is basically the future, and is going to bring a lot of efficiencies. But how do we get there? And how do we, like, why do we get there? Like, what are the reasons why this DeFi is better than the centralized system that we have? And you have to explain it to regulators, you have to explain it to banks, you have to explain it to these people that are actually like they're huge companies right now. So that is one of the reasons I created the blog, because I wanted to talk to people that maybe not familiar with Bitcoin and maybe not familiar with like blockchain, but they were familiar with the financial system and like business in general. And it was like, this is the impact. Like, this is the reason why governments are looking at this. This is the, like, the benefits of settlements. So another blog talks about like custody and why banks are going to get custody. Why do you need to host a node as an investor? What are ways of getting that yield that is just not trading, but it could be staking, right? And what does it mean to me to have a node? Like, at the beginning, it was like, but actually, what is a node? Well, a node is a program or a computer, but you have to say that to people, right? And so that is the reason why I created the blog. Has actually a lot of success. Is read in 40 countries, and it has like 200 reads per blog. So I invite people to look at it. And if you have any suggestions of any topic that you like and you want me to kind of look at it or just like discuss about it, you can reach me through that website. The website is www.ines, INES, G like in goal, and then DELMACO.com. So Ines G del Mazo.com. And
we'll be sure to include it in the show notes as well, or in the YouTube link. Make sure everyone knows how to find you there. Anything else you wanted to say about the blog?
No, just take a look, and what I think I bring is the international perspective and kind of some kind of like policy perspective. As well, plus all the all the more like business perspective that I got at Wharton, and I got like working for Ripple.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing with us. You obviously write a lot. You've joined podcasts. You are consuming media, creating media. Fun question to wrap it up for History of Coins version 7.0 of Reimagine 2021. What is your favorite podcast right now?
I really like to listen to The Defiant. I think it brings you the latest crazy things going on in DeFi. And whether it's like Pancake Swap or like SushiSwap or Melon like protocol, I think is a great source of kind of understanding this new world that is being created and how impactful it could be. And sometimes just exposing you to very different type of people. Like there's people who are libertarian, there's people who they want to, like they work in a bank, and all of them, they have different perspectives, right? And everyone is kind of contributing to this like new decentralized system, and I think it's very well done. It is very on point. Everything that happens into the system, like you have it right away in the podcast.
Yeah, awesome. I just came across the Defiant recently. I didn't realize they had a podcast, so I'll have to check it out. Yeah, thanks for the recommendations, and thank you so much for joining us for another kind of university segment, policy, global finance segment of Reimagine 2020 version 7.0 History of Coins. Stay tuned for more.
Thank you very much. A pleasure to meet you.